Most MSPs treat selling a 20-person company the same as selling to a 200-person company. And that is like bringing a stick to a sword fight. It's not going to work. And then they wonder why they're losing these deals. And if you are like, Harrison, I want to sell to these companies, this is the video for you, because I'm going to walk you through exactly why those businesses aren't interested in buying from you. It's actually something that you're doing wrong. How are you doing? My name is Harrison Barron from growth-generators.com. We help MSPs grow, whether that's teaching you how to sell your services, to charge more money, to generate an unlimited amount of leads into your business, and help guide you along the MSP growth process. If you'd like to learn more, head over to our website at growth-generators.com. We have our programs, the services that we offer, and an entire resources page full of resources, some free, some paid, but the majority of them, they're all tagged as free if they're free. Business plan and structure, all the way to landing your first clients, master classes, and so many more, as well as other resources that we recommend as well. Head over to growth-generators.com/resources, or if you want to hang out with us in the Discord/Discord, at the end of that, I'll leave links down below as well. So let's talk about the pitch, because I think a lot of people kind of have the pitch wrong. And the reason it's wrong is actually defining a larger SMB, small to medium-sized business, to a smaller medium-sized business, right? And this is the way they do business together, or better yet, the way they do business separately. Most businesses don't realize that when they're going through the process of trying to sell to a 200-person company, the process is very different. First, let's define what a small to medium-sized business is. Now, your definition is going to be very different based on your MSP. The global definitions, a small to medium-sized business is like less than, I think, 500 employees. I'm going to check on that real quick, 1 second. It's actually 100 employees or fewer and less than $50 million in revenue. I've heard 200 and I've heard 500 as well, and that's kind of where the gray area comes in. But either way, when you get into the larger SMB, whatever you'd consider, I would say a safe number is 30, 40, even 50 people. That's when you're starting to get into larger, small, medium businesses. Less than that, you're kind of in the small business area. And this is really important because as you go through the process of understanding that type of customer, they are going to have different processes, different problems, and there's some key differences that you really need to know. One of those is how the decision-making process is actually done. When you're dealing with a smaller business, you're typically going in, shaking the owner's hand, whoever it may be, introducing yourself, and you're going to meet with that person the entire time. That's a little different when you get into the larger businesses. You might have multiple stakeholders. You might have investors, you might have committees, you might have influencers in that company, not YouTube influencers that are saying, hey, this is a good idea or this is a bad idea. In some cases, you may deal with a CEO, but depending on the size of the business, they may have a CTO. They may have an operations officer who might be in charge of handling the technology, and that's who you're actually going to end up meeting. And in many cases, when you present, they can't give you a little. I'm looking eagerly for a pen here, and I still don't have one on my desk. But they're not going to give you a John Hancock right on the spot. It's going to take time to get that back because they have to go through their processes. They're going to evaluate everybody. It's important to understand that process because, yes, they're still going to end up buying, but it's not, hey, yep, let's do the deal. Let's get it done on the spot. This also changes the sales cycle length or the sales cycle time. In many cases, people are always like, Harrison, how long does it take to close your first MSP sale? Well, it depends, right? It depends on how aggressive you are. It depends on who you're going after. It depends on how targeted you are. In a larger business, expect months, not weeks. In a smaller business, it could be done in 1 to 2 days, realistically. If it's a warm lead that comes in or you happen to strike when the iron's hot, there is a ton of opportunity to get that done faster. So why wouldn't you get that done faster? But it's important to understand that you're not going to close a 50, 100, or 200 person business overnight. It will take some time, sometimes months. I've even seen prospects or people chase down businesses, myself included in this, for years, playing the super, super long game to close that deal. So it does take a tremendous time. Now, the third point, the one of the biggest differences, or if not the biggest difference, is the risk tolerance. Bigger businesses, more is at stake. If something goes wrong, remember, they're giving you the keys to the castle. If something goes wrong, that's a tremendously large problem to have. Bigger stakes, bigger risk. They really need to do their homework and move with more caution, right? You may have heard the term, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. It's the exact same thing in businesses. The bigger the business, it's like driving a cruise ship. It takes a long time to make a turn, whereas if you're in a small boat, you could do it very, very quickly in a small space. It just takes time, and they have to go through and figure out who's the right company, why are they the right company, do they understand the business, all of that. And sometimes, myself included, I've had to go through multiple, not interviews, but sales meetings with them to make sure that I've ironed out every single detail that they can have. And the key difference, number 4, is what existing systems do they have in place? And is that something that you're familiar with? When you get into the 50, 100, and even past 100-person companies, you're now getting into some enterprise-grade hardware. It doesn't mean that they're an enterprise company. There's an enterprise-grade hardware. Are you comfortable with using enterprise-grade hardware? Are you comfortable with using enterprise-grade software? Because they're the ones calling you. You're in some cases, probably not replacing somebody, and they're definitely not starting from scratch. They have infrastructure, they might have documentation, they know the industry and the system in and out. And in some cases, you might not be prepared for that, or if you are prepared for that, you're ready for those questions. But let's talk about why most MSPs fail when it comes to this pitch, right? We've talked a lot about the differentiators. You have to keep in mind, you can't just talk to one person, right? You're going to end up talking to multiple people, especially in these bigger companies. If at the bare minimum, I've had 3 or 4 people just sit in on the sales meeting where it's me talking to one other person, but there's extra eyes in the room. And let me tell you, the pressure, I'm somebody that does well under pressure. It goes way up. I was nervous when I had to do it the first time. You also want to make sure that you're not leading with the price. You're leading with the outcomes. Why are they bringing you there? What problems are you solving? Or better yet, what problems are they trying to solve? And how do you plan on meeting or exceeding their expectations? They want the outcomes. At that size of a business, thousands of dollars is literally a rounding error in most cases. But it's important that you can know factually that you can deliver on what they actually want. You also want to make sure that you don't lack a follow-up process. Now, you probably are watching this and you're like, Harrison, I know you talk about the process all the time. And I'm going to say absolutely. And take a second to the like button, subscribe button, that notification bell. But truthfully, you're going to get tired. You're just going to get burnt out. It's more about stamina than anything else. How many times can you follow up? Because those businesses are going to forget about you. They are the whales in many cases that most MSPs want. Are you going to follow up more than all of your competitors? If the answer is yes, fantastic. And if the answer is no, you need to build a system to remind you to follow up more and more and more. And last but not least, the single-handedly most largest detrimental thing that you could do is not tailoring the pitch to the prospect, especially to the role that they're in, right? Whether they're in IT, finance, leadership, or just having a generic pitch. I actually dealt with this with one of my members who just sold for a huge exit in a record amount of time. And they were going through and they were pitching, and they were making the cold calls. They were going through the process, and they would get to presenting the pitch, right? Finally, after they'd see everything. And at that time, they were using a super generic slide deck. We took it, fixed it in 1 or 2 days, and they closed a $9,000 monthly recurring revenue deal the next week. And I'm not saying that because Heroes is amazing, although it actually is, but it was just that one major difference that was holding that person back from massive, massive success and now a 7-figure exit in the matter of just about 15 months. Absolutely incredible. But you have to make sure that you know who you're talking to, the problems that they're trying to fix, and tailor that proposal and the pitch deck to them. It's just incredibly important. And I can't stress that enough because I think a lot of people just kind of skip on and don't pay attention. So how do you actually win these deals? I want to give you a little bit of a playbook here. right? You want to understand the buying committee, know all the buying decision makers and influencers. And it's okay to ask, hey, who else should be invited to this meeting? As far as, do they play a role in the decision, whether or not they're just giving feedback? I'd love to have them in instead of having that person try to regurgitate everything I went over, right? Two, you want to lead with proof. You have to lead with proof. Whatever it is, they want to see case studies, ROI, whatever it may be that you can show them. Similar stories, hopefully success stories, but you have to go through with proof. Their BS detector is going off and you have to put it to rest. You also want to build trust across the board. You want to you want to present well, shower, shave, put on your best clothing, all that good stuff. But you also want to meet the needs of those people to build the trust. Understand their roles, what they deal with, and speak to those roles across the entire process, from prospect to maybe outings that you attend to times that you bump into them, all the way to the actual closing of it. And this brings me to understanding the bigger picture of what's actually going on. Is it support that they're looking for? Is it scalability? Is it risk reduction? Anything like that. But the more information that you can get and the more you can understand the big picture, in many cases, there's a dark cloud looming around part of the business that they just won't tell you about. You have to go through and understand that so that way you can address those things. And last but not least, you have to plan on playing the long game. It is all about the long game. Think about it, right? If it was just short and easy and simple, everybody would be doing it. But the whales, the biggest, the best clients that are become raving fans, they take the long game. You have to nurture those leads. You have to have regular touch points. Invite them to lunch. Invite them to your events every once in a while. I promise you, it makes a difference. One of my favorite things to do that I used to do and I still do today, I do it more to keep in touch with people, but I would ask people when their birthday is and I call them on the birthday, because guess who calls on the birthday? Mom and your favorite bald guy. That's it. It was amazing. I've built incredible long-lasting relationships because I just called people on their birthday, and it makes a massive, massive difference. Find something that sets you apart from the rest of the competition, from the rest of the salespeople, and you will have massive success, especially in the larger businesses. If you have questions, please leave them down below. If you think this was a great video, also please let me know. I'm trying to make some more advanced content for MSPs, but I'm going to be dialing back to some beginner content here in a few short weeks. Love you guys. As always, we're back on the content train. I'll see you guys in the next one.